In your regional experience, most of it is regional. What is the common thread across different healthcare settings in terms of the challenges they face, and what promise they're wanting to deliver?
Yeah.
So one is a promise, and then they're facing a challenge. What's the common thread across all these regional healthcare settings?
Probably the biggest common challenge is wanting to do the best thing you can for your patients, clients, participants. Knowing that you haven't got enough resources. So you're constantly being challenged from a budgetary perspective. You can sort of, budgets are budgets, you sort of manage those as best as you can, and the sun always comes up and you deal with that the next day. Probably the biggest challenge in regional areas is workforce. And making sure that your workforce is skilled, trained, qualified, if they need qualifications, and that they are happy and informed and part of the journey and all those type of things. When you've got, I've had at different times been responsible for thousands of people, and it's really hard to sort of ensure that everyone hears the same message. But it's really, really important when you're in these roles to be clear and consistent, and when you do issue messages, you make sure the message will be understood by both the professor of neurology and the person who's actually responsible for making sure the theatre's clean. Because particularly when we were doing things with COVID pandemic, we needed to make sure that everybody heard about how to wash their hands. And you'd be amazed at how many people didn't know how to wash their hands despite being a clinician. And we just repeated that over and over again. How to wear a mask properly, how to take care of yourself, how to have some downtime, how to reach out when you're feeling a bit stressed. And you can put in place a whole range of different things like employment assistant programs. You can have a whole range of stuff going on. But what's really important is for everyone at all the different tiers of the organisation to be in a place where they know what the direction of the organisation is. They're in a place where they hear what's happening, and they also feed back up the system so you can effect change if you need to. Sometimes it's really hard to effect change, but it's actually really important to sort of be doing that in a way that's going to work. And the way that works is by doing some research, finding out where you want to be, having a goal, measuring your goals, making sure they're attainable. Real classic smart goal setting type stuff.
Lovely.
But it's just one of those never ending stories.